Wife's post to AITH for not telling my wife that our baby died because of me. February 9th, 2024. I male 25 and my wife female 24. Had our daughter Angela last year in November. We met at university. We dated for 2 years and got married after graduating. It's our first marriage and we are very in love. My wife, who we will call Kim, got pregnant during our honeymoon and we were both very excited. My parents are out of the picture and Kim only grew up with her dad. We both knew that we wanted to have children and give them the best life we could. Kim's pregnancy was normal. It was our first child. The baby was born healthy and beautiful. She was perfect, chubby legs and round face. I never thought that one day I could love a woman more than I love Kim, but my daughter stole my heart completely. Everything was perfect, but we were very nervous. Since we didn't know anything about babies, Kim's father constantly called us and also gave me advice. My grandmother also taught us how to change her correctly and feed her. We were blessed with a lot of help. Kim's family came from their home country to meet our daughter for Christmas. They were going to stay until the new year, but on December 28th Kim's father had a heart attack and was taken to the emergency room. We went to the hospital and my father-in-law had to remain under observation since his condition was serious. To give you an idea, he might not wake up again. I told my wife that I would stay with her, but Kim asked me to go with Angela home. Whatever had to happen would happen in the next 24 hours. She didn't want to leave her father's side, but she didn't want to leave the baby at the hospital all night. We agreed that I would stay at home with Angela, and she would stay at home with her father and her relatives at the hospital. The next 24 hours passed, and my father-in-law began to improve, so the stay was extended to 48 hours. And for 72, Kim came to get some clothes and see our daughter and she returned to the hospital. Due to her concern I had not slept in those 2 days, so after giving her bottle to my daughter, I put her to sleep and I myself fell asleep. When I woke up it was almost night. Angela was still asleep, so I decided to have a coffee and watch television. After 2 hours I decided to check on her and she seemed asleep. However, my heart stopped when I realized that she had vomited, and when I picked her up she was cold, and I wasn't breathing. I panicked. I shook her. I patted her on the back. I just desperately wanted her to breathe again. I called an ambulance begging for help. The operator gave me instructions to do CPR. When the doctors arrived we immediately went to the hospital. I called to Kim and between my mess of tears and hyperventilation I tried to tell her what was happening. When we arrived she was already there. Kim cried and screamed at the doctors begging to save her. I did too. They did everything they could for about an hour, but in the end there was nothing to do. My baby died at only a month old. They explained to us that Angela had vomited while she was sleeping and choked on her own vomit. She tried to calm us down by explaining that this can happen and that it wasn't our fault. Kim and I are a mess. I haven't told her that I fell asleep while my daughter was dying. I haven't told her that I killed my daughter. I want to end all of this. I can't continue with this. I miss her. I want to hear her crying, having her in my arms. I want to change her diapers, change her clothes. I want to hug her with all my strength. I want to see her. I miss her so much. I hate myself so much. It should be me and not her. It's my damn fault. I want all this pain. It's over. I want to end everything. AITH has no consensus bot, but OOP was NTA and advised to receive therapy divided by counseling. Comments. STOKED for BREAKFAST, not that asshole. I'm a doctor. This does happen, not just to children but also to old adults, who aren't able to adequately manage their own secretions, and so on. See a therapist and a psychiatrist, both is better than just one, and you'll get through it. You're not the asshole, at all. Sometimes bad things happen. It sucks. MERRYMOOSE 9 to 3, net. Please get grief counseling. This is not your fault. Even if you and your wife weren't dealing with a family emergency, and even if you weren't exhausted, your darling baby could have passed in exactly the same way during the night, or a nap. Even the doctor told you that it wasn't your fault. Like any other parent, you feel responsible for what happened. That's natural, so please get therapy. If not for yourself, think of your wife. How would she cope with losing both you and your daughter? Also, encourage your wife to get therapy. She's hurting as much as you are. Wife's post. Editor's note, February 13th, 2024. It's not easy for me to talk about this. It happened very recently and I don't like talking about my problems with strangers either. But right now I have to feel alone and lost because I can't talk to anyone. This is the situation. As the title says, my baby died recently and my family is broken. This happened on New Year's, while my husband M25 was taking care of her. My family, my father M66, my aunt F57 and my 2 cousins F28 M30 had come to visit my husband and I to meet our newborn daughter for Christmas. I told my father that we could go ourselves halfway through this year, 2024. Since due to his delicate health, I was worried about him making such a long trip, but he insisted because he wanted to meet his granddaughter. For a few days everything was fine. My dad loved my daughter very much. He kept saying that she was just like me when I was born. I was able to see my cousins and my aunt again. She was the closest thing I've ever had to a mother. Everything was fine, until my dad started feeling bad a few days after Christmas dinner. Any moment he just collapsed due to severe chest pain. It didn't take us long to understand that it was because of his heart, so we took him to the emergency room where he stayed for at least 3 days. During all that time, my husband stayed at home with my daughter, because I did not want to leave my father, since his condition was serious at first. When he started to get better, I went back to my house to see how my daughter was doing. I felt calm when I saw that my husband was taking good care of her on his own. However, I asked him if he needed me to stay with him. He told me to be calm, that he would take care of everything, and that I focused on accompanying my dad. My husband knows how important my father is to me, so I was grateful to have a man like him supporting me. I returned calmly to the hospital, but a few hours later my husband called me crying. It took him a while to calm down enough to tell me that my baby was dying. He had drowned. I remember very little what happened after that call. At one point, my husband had already arrived at the hospital with my daughter, but they were unable to save her. Before you think it was negligence, no, my husband did not neglect her. The doctor explained to us that the baby died of SIDS. She choked on her own vomit while she was sleeping. My husband could not have prevented it unless he had been watching her non-stop, 24 hours a day. So no, it wasn't his fault. My daughter's body was cremated as my culture dictates, and her ashes are now in my house, in her room. The most difficult thing was to tell my father. He woke up from his comatose state on January 1st, but I couldn't go see him until the next day. Prudently, my father had not been told anything about what happened. I tried to put good face until my father asked to see my daughter. I tried to excuse myself, but eventually he had to find out only a couple of days later. I wish he hadn't told me, since it caused him to relapse, and this time, it has taken him a long time to recover. During the entire month of January my cousins returned home, but father stayed with me at my house along with my aunt to help me take care of him. My husband practically stopped doing anything. I focused all my energy on taking care of my father and maintaining the house in order. It was a longer and more difficult time for everyone. My father was finally able to return to his house on January 30th, and since then it's just my husband and I. He doesn't talk to me. He doesn't eat. He doesn't sleep well. He can't work. He works from home. He doesn't want to talk to anyone, not even me. My family has tried to talk to me, but I don't want to talk either. I just ask for updates on my father. I don't let them ask me about anything else. For my part, I'm back to work and I'm thinking about taking extra hours, since I spent part of my savings on hospital bills. But I really want to get away from my house. I feel like I'm suffocating there. I can't get into my baby's room without crying. My husband, for his part, spends most of his day there. I don't know what to do. I cry to my baby every night. I cry into his clothes, his stuffed animals, his blankets, until I fall asleep. Now I'm eating twice as much. I devour the portions that my husband doesn't want, and I keep asking for more. The house is a disaster. I feel like we are both dying and we are doing nothing to prevent it. Relevant comments. Leader inside HTTPs divided by www. Reddit.com divided by 1 AMX6KB. I think you need to read this. It sounds like your husband posted a few days ago. It was deleted, but I found the post on Reddit. I'm so unbelievably sorry for your loss. I'm 34 weeks pregnant with a baby girl right now. I read the other post shortly after it was posted and haven't stopped thinking about your family. Please consider getting professional help for yourself and your husband if you can get him to agree. If you ever want to scream into a void who will just listen, please feel free to DM me. I'm praying for peace and healing for your family. And again, I'm so sorry for your loss. Edit to add NTA. Greater than wife, my God. It's him. I have to talk with him. Big Fly. 1561. I'm so sorry I can even be able to imagine the pain and heartbreak. Just take it 1 hour at a time. 1 day at a time. Anytime you can do something for yourself, do it. But the main thing is to focus on working through the grief. When you are ready to talk, I would suggest you and your husband do both individual counseling and marriage counseling. A loss like this is incredibly hard on both of you individually and as a couple. Try not to lose your husband or yourself. This wasn't anyone's fault, and I hope in time, you and your husband can work through the grief and pain and find joy in life once more. My heart goes out to you. The fact that you're even here expressing this story shows how strong you are. Greater than wife, thank you very much. I don't want to lose my marriage. We haven't talked about divorce. Actually, we haven't talked at all. I know we need therapy. Thank you for your words. 2 months later. Hello AITAH. I came here a few months ago to vent about the loss of my daughter. To be honest, I didn't see the post until a week later, and I saw that my account was suspended. It's not important since it was just a discard account, so I opened another one, just to let you know that I have read all your comments. Kim and I don't we are fine, however we are in the process of being fine. Kim is also an active Reddit user and saw my post. We talked a lot, we cried, and I have to say I'm glad she saw it. Since Angela is not with us, I have spent most of the time in her room, and Kim returned to work very quickly, since she no longer needed maternity leave. But our therapist gave us a lot of advice on how to deal with grief. I have been diagnosed with depression, and I'm working on it with the help of Kim. She's also in therapy. We support each other in every way we can. My father-in-law is as well as can be. He recovered, but he hasn't been well since we told him about Angela. Kim calls him practically every day. She can't do much more since he lives in another country, and it's already difficult enough for ourselves. Right now we are looking to sell our house and move to a smaller place. We bought the house thinking about having a big family, but we are going to postpone that for the moment. No matter how broken I am inside, my wife is my priority right now, so I have to prioritize my marriage. I will not update again. I wanted to assure all the noble souls who supported us that we are still here and we appreciate your words and support. You are all wonderful people. God bless you. Northeast W update. Someone claiming to be the wife unconfirmed. August 2nd, 2024. I need help because I'm quite nervous about what to do. In November 2023 I had my baby, but sadly, she passed away on December 30th of that same year. Due to SIDS, she vomited while she was sleeping. My husband was at home with her at that time. I was not at home due to a family emergency. My husband and I suffered a lot from this, especially my husband. He kept blaming himself, even though it was not his fault. Neither I nor anyone else has blamed him, I myself, and dealing with my own feelings of guilt. It has been a difficult and painful process to deal with grief. It was very difficult for me to have to recover from childbirth knowing that my daughter was no longer with me. My husband continues to deal with depression. It has been a struggle, but we have been a mutual support through all this time. He and I moved from our house to an apartment. We haven't sold the house. Last month, July 1st was my birthday, and we went on a trip that we planned last year, but had been postponed due to the pregnancy and after the accident. We thought it would be good for us to change our routine, so I took a week off from work and we traveled to the beach. We had mixed feelings about this trip, but it helped us a lot. My husband for a long time just stayed at home, while I went back to work to distract myself from everything. But then he went back to working remotely, and after the vacation, he told me that you feel ready to start working outside the home again. Sorry for all this wall of text. I thought it was good to give a summary of how things have been. Now, the reason why I am here. 2 days ago I discovered that I'm pregnant. Since my period was late and I only took the test to rule it out, and I didn't expect it to come out positive. Yesterday I missed work and went to my gynecologist. I have about 4 weeks. I haven't told my husband, because I myself don't even know how I feel. I'm happy, sometimes I'm sad and then excited, but more than anything I'm scared. And I don't even know how my husband will take it. When what happened for my daughter, he also came to Reddit and post how he felt, and I was very scared when I saw that he confessed that he wanted to die. Recently, we are finding some normality within the pain. In that moment, the people in the comments were very kind and understanding to him, and I am looking for the same help. I need to know how to approach this with him. Abortion is definitely not an option. There is no way he'll lose another child, so please don't go suggesting that to me that. I am seeking your advice at this time. Comments. Beginning STOP7646. First off, sorry for your loss. Second, why do you think Paul would want you to abort? Why do you think your husband wouldn't be happy about this pregnancy? I highly recommend you to go to therapy BC. It's obvious you guys are still grieving. Please take care of yourself and don't feel like this pregnancy isn't a blessing. BC it is. Please tell your husband ASAP before you cause yourself more stress. Dentelian. I think I've read your story yesterday. Was your first baby named Angela? Anyway, I'm so sorry for the loss of your first child, and any feelings you may have regarding this pregnancy is completely valid. I wish you all the best. If you need to vent or talk, my DMs are open. Greater than Noob. It wasn't her real name, but that's what my husband called her in his publication. You are very sweet. I appreciate it very much. Oop on telling her husband about the pregnancy sooner than later, so he can get therapy. Greater than Noob. Thanks. I think I'm going to do that. His therapist appointment is next Wednesday, but I literally don't feel mentally capable of waiting until then. I'll tell him at the weekend. My wife won't dismiss our daughter's pain and I'm losing my mind. My 28. Female wife 26. Female Sophia takes every scratch our daughters 7 and 5 get extremely seriously. Every bruise, every scraped knee, every cut is an emergency to her, and because they're emergencies to her, they become emergencies to the girls. Not only does this mean it's hard to tell when an injury is actually dangerous, did she twist her ankle, or break it, is her arm bruised, or fractured, but the kids are responding badly to any hurt they feel now. At the mere sight of blood, the 7 starts wailing like she's been stabbed. Even worse, her sister has started intentionally banging her arm into things or falling on concrete if she thinks she's not getting enough attention. Last week my wife took the oldest one to urgent care because she got a canker sore and Sophia was convinced it was something more sinister. While she was gone I had the younger one, who was upset that Sophia had spent so long on her sister, and had now taken her to the doctor to get special attentions. So she threw herself on the tile floor in front of me, and started screaming and holding the wrist she hadn't actually twisted. I'm so tired of all of this I just let her scream. When I didn't give her the attention she wanted, her screaming in pain turning into sobbing because I wasn't cuddling her, and kissing her better, and promising her cookies and a late bedtime. I told her I'd be in the den with the cats when she felt like joining us. I felt like a bitch for letting her cry herself out, but she's never going to learn to walk off Scooter Falls or getting hit with dodgeballs at this rate, and she can't be rewarded for this kind of behavior. It's just not healthy. Eventually she ran out of tears and came to sit with us, and I let her have a watered-down soda. Well, when Sophia got back with the older kid, who now had the same numbing gel we already had in the cabinet, and $200 urgent care bill, our younger daughter told her what happened, and now she's furious at me for ignoring something that could have been serious. I told her she's the one making mountains out of molehills and feeding into the actual dangerous behavior. We've been fighting about it all week, and the kids have only been acting up more as a result. I'm so tired of this. Maybe my appendix will bust, and I can spend a few nights in the hospital away from this insanity. Divided by S. Relevant comments. Oop on if her wife had PPD when she got pregnant and gave birth. Did her wife have any medical trauma? Greater than oop. No. And no. Both of them were adopted, and to the best of my knowledge she's never had negative doctor experiences. If she had, it wouldn't make sense to keep dragging the girls in for scratch knees. Greater than she's absolutely setting them up for failure. She just refuses to see that. If someone here can convince her to see a therapist, or an ounce of reason related to the specific situation, then they're miracle workers. Greater than she's great in almost every other aspect. I love her, but the constant coddling and panicking is getting ridiculous. Did Oop and her wife have infertility problems? Greater than Oop. No. As far as I know, both of us were perfectly healthy reproductively speaking. Greater than all pregnancy is dangerous, and IVs usually result in multiples. Increasing the risks or forcing termination of it doesn't take right, and they're ridiculously expensive. A lot of places aren't exactly trustworthy when it comes to ensuring the health of sperm donors, and so on. Greater than there wasn't a chance in hell I was ever carrying children, so that was out. She never fought to carry them. Greater than when we decided we wanted kids and we were in a place that it was feasible, we looking for agencies and found our girls. Oop on the relationship her wife has with their daughters and if she's overprotective. Greater than oop. We've had long talks that always dissolve into arguments over the subject before. As I understand it, she really sees nothing wrong with what she's doing. She wants to make the girls feel like they'll be seen and taken care of, but she's going too far. Greater than she does spend time with them regularly. She has an office job, and has them alone from 6 p.m. onwards on days when I work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and she doesn't work on weekends at all. Greater than, but yes, the younger one has definitely learned that making it look like she's hurt herself, or actually hurting herself, however minor, is a surefire way of getting Madre's attention. Not sure I helped last week. I don't want her thinking Mama doesn't care, but I just could not bring myself to reward her pretending to be hurt. Greater than that's an interesting idea. It might help the girls, although I don't see it changing Sophia's behavior much. Update HTTPs divided by www Reddit.com divided by or divided by true off my chest divided by 9b YXAFWXF1 August 2nd, 2024. While my first post got more popular than I was expecting, not a full update, but a few people were curious, so I thought I'd throw this out there with some this week's developments and some clarifications. The full original post is here. HTTPs divided by www Reddit.com divided by or divided by true off my chest divided by comments divided by 1 EDNNMP divided by my wife, aunt, dismiss our daughters, pain, and in divided by. This sub only allows 2 updates, so the next one if I end up publishing, it probably won't be anytime soon. TLDR, my 28F wife to 6F has been making our daughter's injuries worse by treating all of them like an emergency. This has led to the older one 7 to genuinely believe that every injury could be fatal, and the younger one 5 to realize that if she's hurt she gets special things like cookies, candy, extended bedtimes, movies, and so on, and is the main source of conflict in our marriage. Clarifications. Number 1. This is not Munchausen's by proxy. Might all have got to lay off the Hulu docuseries and stop trying to diagnose strangers with serious and sinister medical issues based off one post written by their annoyed spouse. My wife does not hurt them. She is not poisoning them, or looking for drugs to feed them, or posting all over social media about how great she is and how lucky the girls are and so on and so on and so on, or trying to scam people out of money or a Habitat for Humanity house. Sophia is not worrying for the attention of it. She is trying to ensure that they don't feel ignored and neglected, to the point that she takes everything that's serious. But she's gone too far and it is now backfiring. The few people who pointed out that the younger's behavior of faking injuries or actually giving herself a bruise could develop into something more serious are correct, however, which is a concern that I also have. Attention. The girls get attention. They get plenty of attention from both of us. They are not being neglected to the point that they need to injure themselves as a cry for help. For one thing, my older daughter doesn't do that. She is just genuinely convinced that bruises could be internal bleeding, and any bump on the head could be a concussion, which means that I'm going to have to give her the period talk pretty soon, or she's going to think she's dying if her starts early. For another thing, the younger one tends to only do it when she thinks her sister is getting something she wants, or we said no earlier in the day. They get attention, but they get special attention when they're sick or hurt. Someone in the comments last time, don't remember the name, suggested flipping it to discourage the younger girl's behavior, essentially taking away fun things and forcing them to rest when they're sick of hurt. A few other people suggest pain charts of some variety, or first aid classes. Those might help with the older one and Sophia herself. That was probably the most viable advice I got. However well-meaning and true a lot of other stuff was. 3. Therapy right now is not an option. You can suggest it all you want. I can and have suggested all I want, but as of right now it will not be happening anytime soon. We had a bad experience with a highly regarded adoption specialist therapist a few years ago that resulted in our older daughter having more issues with her adoption than she did when we started. Issues that we've had to figure out how to manage on our own because the two therapists we tried after that only compounded and exacerbated those new issues. My daughter would have been better off if she'd never been to therapy in the first place. As a result, my wife has lost almost all of her faith in mental health professionals. Quite frankly, I lost the majority of mine as well. And while I've made mention of it to Sophia, my bigger focus is on getting her to just change this one behavior. 4. Was my wife traumatized a child by being medically neglected? To the best of my knowledge, no. She doesn't have any long-term health issues, and she was never very involved in any physical and potentially dangerous sports when we were in school. Her family hasn't suffered from very many illnesses or accidents, even during VID. So while I've driven myself to an emergency dentist before and broken my wrist without even knowing it, the only time she's ever been in a hospital was to pick her dad up from a colonoscopy, at least before she started taking our daughters in for benign bumps, bruises, and cuts. 5. No, my wife does not have postpartum anything. The actual update, after a couple of other comments brought up how my girls behave away from us, I decided to ask. My wife works a normal 9 to 5, while I work 3/12s from 6 p.m. to m on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. During the winter they have school and daycare respectively. This winter the younger one will be in kindergarten though, and during the summer, they both go to daycare from about 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on my work days, and just in the mornings on other days as needed. I do drop-offs and pick-ups. When I picked them up on Monday, I decided to ask one of the caretakers how the girls had been behaving. She told me they were fine. They bickered sometimes, but there was nothing unusual going on. I asked what happens when they get hurt or feel sick during the day, how they handle it, and so on. I didn't tell them about my wife. I didn't want to be telling tales out of or at school. I think she might have thought I was looking for help, which I was, technically, because she told me that as soon as a kid falls down, or takes a ball to the face or anything else, they start the whole interaction by telling them you're okay, and assessing the damage calmly as they approach. Even if the kid is bleeding they don't react. They say something like, "Wow, that looked kind of scary. I bet it surprised you. Let's see your arm divided by leg divided by whatever." She basically wrote me a script. I asked her how my girls reacted to it, and she told me that the older one was a little more sensitive than her peers. She cried easily, and they had to be extra firm with the "you're okays" with her. The younger one she saw a little less. She's in a different age bracket. She only just turned 5. so she's still technically in the pre-K group, but she never heard anything about her. I asked what exactly they do if a kid is bleeding or bruised. For bruises they can sit with a little ice pack for 15 minutes, before they need to come back to the ground unless it's actually serious, and for cuts they get it washed and a band-aid. So nothing exciting as far as I could tell. The fact that we haven't been called into the school to pick up our totally terribly injured 5-year-old before tells me that she knows she won't get Madre's special treatment at the school, and since I will be the one picking her up, if they think she's too sick or something there's really no point in kicking up too much of a fuss unless she just wants to hold something cold for a few minutes. Neither of the girls have been hurt or sick this week. We stopped arguing, because I frankly do not have the energy to do so constantly. I'll look into the pain chart and first aid classes and bring up boring damage mitigation soon, once we've both had time to calm down. Additional information from OOP. Greater than noob. I'm going to put this here, since apparently it needs to be said. Greater than I am aware that saying it's okay or you're okay, the way the daycare workers do is a good idea. This is what I have been trying to implement for a long time. Even if a child is genuinely hurt, adults need to remain calm to keep the child calm. If an adult is upset, then the already upset kid will become more upset, and if that kid isn't upset, then they will be when they see their parents freaking out. Greater than I am not looking for excitement. I genuinely have no idea how you read my post and got that impression. None. If I'm playing checkers, you started a game of chess. Greater than I am trying to end the excitement. When I said nothing exciting in my post, it was not because I don't want to implement something boring. It's because I do. I very much want my kids being hurt to stop being exciting or rewarding. That is the entire point of everything here, of a week of arguing, of every other argument before this one. There was no one working up my older daughter. The younger one wasn't getting rewarded. If anything, being hurt at daycare got her essentially a timeout with an ice pack, or rubbing alcohol and a pat on the back. Greater than that is a good thing. That is what Washington NT. Loop on communicating with her wife about their daughters on how to react if they got hurt. Greater than noob. I've talked with her a lot about it. It used to start when she was already worked up because one of the girls was hurt or something, and I'd try to calm her down and help the girls calm down. She'd be so keyed up that it would turn into a fight fast. So after a while I stopped trying to interface at the time, because us arguing while one girl and inevitably the other cried wasn't exactly helpful. Greater than after that I started waiting until after all of the excitement of the emergency had passed by to bring it up, especially when the younger girl started intentionally falling or bumping into things. I tried to tell her that making a huge deal out of every scrape was just making things worse, and the girls needed to figure out how self-regulate and tell if they were actually hurt or not. She would accuse me of being callous and tell me she wasn't going to make our daughters feel helpless, hurt and abandoned, and no matter how hard either of us tried is dissolved into another argument.